A speck of land smaller than most American counties has quietly become richer per capita than almost anywhere on Earth, and it did it by charging zero income tax to anyone who shows up. No oil, no diamonds, no factories, just a tax code, and it turned into the world's fifth largest banking center, home to more registered companies than actual human residents. Nearly half the people living there were not born there. They packed up entire lives in New York, London, and Toronto to chase this one number, zero. What almost nobody says out loud is who actually benefits and who gets locked out of the deal completely. 3 islands, together smaller than many U.S. counties, support a population that official sources can't quite agree on. The United Nations lists about 77,000 residents in 2026, while the Cayman Islands' own statistics office estimates closer to 90,000 people living here now. The difference lies in counting methods, but the tension remains. How many people actually call these islands home and how many just pass through? On any given day, the population swells beyond 90,000 as cruise passengers, finance workers, and temporary laborers converge, especially in Georgetown. This compact capital acts as the seat of government, the nerve center of offshore finance, and the main cruise port, all within a city smaller than most small towns. With a median age near 39, the territory isn't just a playground for retirees or vacationers. It's a working society packed into about 100 square miles with a density nearing 320 people per square kilometer. Every office, apartment, and road must fit into this tight space, raising the question, how does such a limited territory support an economy that outsizes its footprint? No resident of the Cayman Islands, whether local, expatriate, or new arrival, pays a single dollar of local income tax on their salary. Capital gains, inheritance, and most owner-occupied property are also untouched by direct taxation. This is not a privilege for a select group, but a local rule protected by decades of constitutional continuity as a British overseas territory. The Cayman Islands' own legislature controls tax policy, while the United Kingdom reserves only limited oversight, stepping in mainly for international compliance or defense. Instead of taxing paychecks, the government raises revenue through import duties, licensing fees, and charges on financial services. For high earners, the difference is dramatic. Advisory examples describe a New York-based fund manager who, after relocating to Grand Cayman, could keep nearly every dollar earned, at least in local terms. But this zero tax promise comes with conditions. Eligibility depends on legal status, income source, and sometimes citizenship. And while the absence of direct taxes is a powerful draw, the true cost of living in this so-called paradise is measured in more than just tax bills. The financial sector in the Cayman Islands runs on precision and legal clarity, not on natural resources or heavy industry. Every morning, Georgetown's short waterfront comes alive with a concentration of law firms, fund administrators, accountants, and auditors, many housed in glass towers that overlook the harbor. Here, the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, or CIMA, keeps a watchful eye over the territory's financial machinery. As of June 2026, CIMA lists 76 licensed banks, a far cry from the often cited figure of 280, which includes historical peaks and non-operating entities. Claims that Cayman is the world's 5th largest banking center depend on which metric and year are cited. The Global Financial Centers Index has ranked it in the top 10, but definitions vary. On the fund side, CIMA's latest reports confirm 31,145 regulated funds, split between 18,132 private funds and 13,013 mutual funds, figures that dwarf older claims of 10,000. These funds, along with more than 123,000 registered companies and 43,000 partnerships, exist mostly on paper, far outnumbering the island's human population. Most are holding companies, trusts, or specialized legal vehicles, not physical businesses. Assets under management reach into the trillions, but the money itself is rarely here, just the paperwork and the regulatory compliance. The real business is handled by a network of international firms, all clustered within walking distance of the cruise port, serving a global clientele from a territory smaller than many city neighborhoods. The promise of zero income tax in the Cayman Islands comes with a monthly calculation that few newcomers expect. For a single finance professional renting a one-bedroom apartment in Georgetown, the monthly budget in 2026 runs between $7,000 US and $13,000 US. That figure includes rent, often rivaling London or Singapore, groceries, utilities, health insurance, and a car, each marked up by import duties of 22 to 25%. Almost every item on the island, from fresh fruit to refrigerators and gasoline, arrives by ship or plane. Local farms supply only a fraction of demand, leaving households exposed to global prices and freight costs. For a family of 4, the calculation grows steeper. $17,000 to $30,000 US per month if private schooling and a larger home are included. These numbers are not universal, but reflect real scenarios cited by Daily KY in 2026. Vehicles add another layer. Import duties, registration, and insurance push the price of a basic car far above its sticker value elsewhere. The absence of salary tax is quickly offset by the cost of living, and for those without high incomes, housing scarcity and expensive basics erode much of the fiscal advantage. The reality is that the Cayman bargain is less about what you keep from your paycheck and more about what you must spend to stay. Hurricane Ivan arrived in September 2004, turning Grand Cayman into a cautionary tale for every resident who thought of storms as a distant threat. Ivan's core passed just southwest of the island, unleashing sustained winds near 150 miles per hour and a storm surge that swallowed entire neighborhoods under 8 to 10 feet of water. Nearly every home on Grand Cayman suffered some form of damage. Power lines snapped, water and sewer systems failed, and both the airport and financial services ground to a halt. The cost ran into the hundreds of millions and forced the community to rebuild from the ground up. Today, Ivan's shadow shapes the rhythm of daily life. Building codes now require hurricane-resistant roofs, impact-rated windows, and reinforced concrete, features that drive up both construction costs and insurance premiums. Storm shutters are standard, and every household is expected to keep emergency supplies on hand. When the season opens each June, residents monitor tropical weather reports, map out evacuation routes, and weigh the price of protection against the risk of loss. For many, the annual ritual of preparing for the next storm is as routine as paying the bills. But not everyone can afford the insurance, the reinforced materials, or the elevated construction that experts recommend. In the Cayman Islands, the threat of the next hurricane is not a one-time disaster, but a permanent calculation, one that quietly divides those who can stay secure from those who cannot. A Cayman address alone does not erase tax obligations built up elsewhere. For U.S. citizens and green card holders, the Internal Revenue Service continues to tax worldwide income, no matter where they live or work. The absence of a U.S. Cayman tax treaty means there is no automatic relief. Every dollar earned, whether from salary, investments, or dividends, remains subject to U.S. federal tax. The foreign earned income exclusion can shield a portion of qualifying salary, currently up to $126,500 in 2026, but investment returns, capital gains, and most business profits are not covered. FATCA and FBAR reporting rules require U.S. persons to disclose foreign accounts and assets, with steep penalties for noncompliance. In practice, 2 residents sharing the same Cayman apartment can face radically different tax realities. A British or Canadian passport holder may owe nothing on local earnings, while an American neighbor files annual returns, reports offshore holdings, and pays tax on global income. The promise of zero tax is real for many, but not universal, and the fine print often favors those with the right passport. Roughly 43% of those living in the Cayman Islands were born elsewhere, according to the latest census. The territory's population draws from over 130 nationalities, with British, Jamaican, Filipino, Honduran, and American communities all leaving their mark. On a busy afternoon in Georgetown, it's common to hear these languages and accents sharing the same street. The workforce is a patchwork of roles. Caymanian families live beside newcomers, while foreign workers fill jobs in finance, construction, healthcare, retail, and domestic service. Many of these workers arrive on employer-sponsored permits, legal status that ties their right to stay and even to bring family to a single job and a minimum salary. Changing employers or gaining permanent residency is a long and uncertain process for most. At the other end of the spectrum, wealthy applicants can secure long-term residence by investing upwards of $2 million in local real estate, while remote professionals with high incomes may qualify for multi-year stays under the Global Citizen Concierge program. Churches and restaurants reflect this diversity, serving as gathering points for both new arrivals and long-settled residents. The question remains whether Cayman is open to all, or primarily to those who can clear the financial bar for entry and security. A wealthy investor can settle above 7 Mile Beach, treating high insurance and imported goods as the cost of mobility and tax relief. Here, clear water and coral reefs become part of daily life, protected by resources that soften each hurricane season. High-earning professionals arrive for bigger paychecks, but rent, groceries, and schooling quickly narrow the gap. Still, the promise of lunch breaks on the sand and weekends at Stingray City keeps many in the trade, even as each storm forecast tests their resolve. Permit-dependent workers face a tighter squeeze. The same prices consume more of their income, and their right to stay depends on a single job contract. The turquoise water is always near, but access is shaped by legal status and the ability to weather both economic and literal storms. On cruise days, visitors can outnumber residents, and nearly half have chosen to stay, but permanence remains a personal calculation. For generations, the Cayman Islands relied on the sea, fishing, boat building, and the skills of seafarers shaped daily life on land that offered little else. Early tourism brought outside money, but the islands remained modest, their fortunes tied to the tides. Everything changed in 1966 when the legislature passed the Banks and Trust Companies Law and the Companies Law. These acts turned law itself into an economic resource, inviting foreign banks and corporations to operate in a place with no direct taxes and a promise of stability. Grand Cayman, once a quiet outpost, became a magnet for global capital. Today, the island's physical scale stands in stark contrast to the financial power they host. As more people arrive, drawn by opportunity or necessity, the pressure grows between the promise of access and the limits of geography, between rising numbers and the finite space of a small archipelago. The question of who truly benefits and who pays the price remains unsettled. Here, wealth and exemption come at a steep, selective price, one that separates those who can pay from those who can't. As global demand for safe havens grows, the line between refuge and exclusion sharpens. The real cost of paradise is who gets to stay and who never can.